We even give a little.
Tulsa King.
Love it. Tulsa King.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2025. We're back. 3 guys, many games. Looking forward to a new season. I'm your host, Steve Sombrato. I'm back with my big brother, Vin Sombrato. Levittown's own Rob Smalley. And today we have a very special guest. We knew 2025 we were going to have to come out hot. We were going to have to step up our game. So we went to one of the most recognizable voices in the sport of lacrosse, one of the most recognizable faces in the sport of lacrosse, Mr. Paul Carcaterra. Let's get a hand for Paul Carcaterra.
Hey. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Happy New Year. I love. There you go.
Standing ovation.
There you go.
I love it.
Gotta pump the ego here. I love the Tulsa King intro, but honestly, I thought I was gonna be coming into some like Long Island Guido music.
No,
we have to change. We change it up. We always have to mix these things up. But we're learning on the fly. But like I had told Smalley previously, I go, we got a professional now.
Yeah,
we could actually learn and know what we're doing.
No, I've ham and egg my way through this whole thing. Don't let me fool you.
Smalls, you got to look up at the camera. What are you doing? There you go.
Get involved. One of the things Vinny likes to do.
If I talk, you don't want me to talk. If I stay silent, I can't be silent.
But I don't want to see the top of your head the whole time.
All right, I got my head. You got, my shirt. I'm sorry. Hold on.
I like that.
Put on.
I made
Especially
this for
you.
Carcaterra,
Wow.
This is for you, baby.
I like that. Q's got next.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that's a good way to start. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to run your show, but that's a good segue into talking some Q's. I mean, I remember a few years ago, everyone, well, not everyone, I wasn't, I think there was a handful of others, were laughing at Gary Gate when they would see him on the sideline and they had 4 wins and it was the worst season in a century. People were selling the Q's. Little did they know, we throw that word GOAT around a lot. He's the best player that these 2 eyeballs have ever seen. And when you are that great of a player, you have a lacrosse mind that is open, that is creative, and that pushes the envelope. So that first year, I think he was soaking everything in. He was figuring out the landscape of the men's game after being with the women's team for, I think, 14 years. Year 2, they improved to around 500. Last year, they had a home game in the first round of the tournament. They beat Towson. They lost to Denver in the quarterfinals by 1 goal. 1 goal away from championship weekend. They have a junior class that was number 1 in the nation with all the recruiting services a few years ago, led by Billy Dwan Jr. and Joey Spallina and Luke Roa and Michael Leo and all those guys. A lot of Long Island flavor there for you all. I think this is a year Cuse can push, man. So Smalley, I think that is the right sweatshirt to wear. You could call me a homer. I did not pick Cuse to go to a Final Four the last bunch of years. This year, I think it's their year.
Yeah, that's a good point, Paul. I think you're right about that. And I think they'll be in the Final Four. I can almost guarantee that. Or, there'll be some heads rolling. But anyway, Vinny, what do you think, man? What do you think? Final Four material?
I think you started by talking about Gary, and I would say that, playing against Gary and playing with him for a year with the Lizards, obviously everybody knows the greatness of him as a player, both he and Paul. I always put them 1A, 1B. But I think Gary, when playing against him, always looked at him as a physical force, a highly skilled guy and all. I think people undersold his knowledge.
Yes.
I watched him closely in games and how he played and how he did things. He clearly really understood how to play the game. And whether he was physically dominant or not, I think he would have been successful because he's a very high IQ guy, in the sport.
Absolutely. And Vinny, to add to that, he's always been pushing the envelope. I tell people all the time, turn on a lacrosse tape in 1986, right? The year before the Gates got there. turn on lacrosse tape 5 years later after they left Syracuse. The game looked drastically different. It's because of the way they pushed the envelope from equipment standpoint, bending their shafts and the way they strung their sticks, and they still do it with gate lacrosse now. They've always had that innovative mind, and I think for Gary, what was critical for him as he segued into the men's game was you allow him to have that like beautiful mind, freelance approach, but you have to surround him with really good coaches. And that's why year one, he hired Dave Petramala, who then went on to North Carolina as assistant for Joe Bresci. But he has Pat March on the offensive end, who's one of the better lacrosse minds in the college game. And John O'Derner, I think, is a rising star defensively. So if you put Gary Gate around like two super hyper-focused, organized coordinators, like he can do some magic. That's why I think he's dangerous. Like let him roam the field, kind of like Simi used to back in the day at Syracuse, and I think they can do some great stuff. Now, with that said, this is a year that is open for many, many teams. I mean, Notre Dame obviously lost Liam Entenmann and Pat Cavanaugh, but they have a plethora of players. Inside Lacrosse rolled out their top 50 players. Notre Dame still had the most of any team with 8.
Yeah.
I think the next team was 5. So everyone that thinks like, oh, Pat Cavanaugh's gone and Liam Entenmann's gone and the cupboard is full in South Bend. So they are the champ. They're going to be hard to knock off, and you can't ever replace having that type of experience on a big stage. Like they've been there, they've done it, they've cleared the hurdle. They're almost playing with house money right now. And we're in a situation where, you know, this could be the first three-peat since the Hess, Hubbard, Massey days at Princeton, 96,
Right.
97, 98, which is super cool. The team to do that before was Gary Gates' Syracuse team in 88, 89, and 90. Three-peating is no easy task.
So you think they could beat one of those teams, could beat Gary Gates' team?
Hell no. Stop.
Oh, no?
1990 Syracuse would, I say it all the time, blowtorch all these teams. Now, the game has changed. The game has changed. So yes, are these teams much deeper than Gates' 90 team? But you also have to compare it against like what was the field at that point in time, right? Like times change, equipment changes, athletes change. Like defensive backs in the NFL aren't the same 20 years ago as they are now, but you have to put them up against the competition. From a competition perspective, the 90 team blowtorched everyone. No one even played within like 7-8 goals of them. They were clearly above their time. I mean, they had the two best midfielders of all time in Paul and Gary Gate. They had Tom Marachek, who's arguably a top 2 or 3 finisher in the game. Pat McCabe is in everyone that has half a brain's top 3 defender of all time, right? Like Pat McCabe, is as good as Pat McCabe was at guarding the ball, like he also gave you another coach on the field. He gave you another goalie on the field. He gave you another clearing midfielder on the field. Like that guy, like when I played in Lake Placid with him many years ago, it dawned on me like, wow, like you better bring your A game with Pat McCabe, because if you don't, whether it's rec ball, it's summer league, it's national championship, like his game face is on 100% of the time, and he expects greatness from everyone around him. And he was on that end of the field with Matt Palin. So they
Well,
had it
you're
all.
going to get some pushback on that
I haven't seen anything like it.
from the new generation and some of the newer fans that we have listening. You're going to get a little bit of pushback on that because
I don't care. Look, Smalley.
Well, I understand you're dealing with old school and new school. No, I'm just saying that
I'm both, man. I'm going to tell you also that the let's see, the 1993 Syracuse team that won a national championship, they would get probably run off the field by Notre Dame last year. I'm a realist. I'll play both sides of it. I just think that 90 team was so different than anything we've ever seen. From a dominating standpoint, when you watch what they did to the competition, it was almost laughable. It was almost laughable what they did to teams.
Let me ask you this, Carc, because I'm thinking about the season overall, generally for all the teams. I was having a conversation with a guy about basketball, and talking about the NC State. I was talking to Thomas O'Connell, former Maryland defensive midfielder. He's at Chaminade. He coaches basketball. And I was having the conversation about his brother's team right now. Last year, they went to the Final Four with NC State. They had a long run into the tournament.
Yep.
I said, how are they doing this year so far? And he brought up a concept, and I was like, wow. I'm like, you know what? That's really true. I wonder in lacrosse, the aspect of now with the transfer portal and all of these changes, the challenges of the coaches to sort of have to develop almost like basically a new team potentially every year. You don't have that same continuity you would have had years ago. Do you think that's really challenging for them? Does that add that much more?
Yeah. I think in football and basketball, it's a Herculean effort for college coaches this time. You see a lot of these coaches, they're bouncing and they're leaving because they can't keep up with it, because they got into the profession to be coaches, to change young men and young women's trajectory in terms of how they play the sport and life skills. And when you're getting all new players every single year and the continuity and the chemistry of a team is in flux because of who's coming in, who's coming out. I cover college football. It is crazy to see how many players not only are on 2 schools, on 3 schools, on 4 schools. We're seeing a quarterback now that was in the portal. He's on his 5th school.
Wow.
It's absolutely crazy. College basketball, very similar. That's why you saw Tony Bennett from Virginia. He retired before the season started. He didn't want a piece of this anymore, and I don't blame him. That's not why he got into the profession. He was strong enough in his mindset and his core values and ethics. What he wanted as a coach, that wasn't what he wanted anymore. So he left. Basketball and college football, I say this all the time, I think it's great that players are being paid, but if they're going to get paid, there's got to be some kind of contractual obligation on both ends. There has to be some guardrails. You can't transfer 2 and 3 times and expect that, you're going to be eligible the next time. I mean, when you are a college athlete, you were called a student athlete. You're there for school. You're there for athletics. The academic institution is taking care of your scholarship in basketball and football. I get that. And then there's the extra with the NIL and all the revenue sharing. I'm all for that. But there has to be some kind of contract for these players that it's a two-way street. So if they decide to leave once, maybe you give them the free pass, that they get a 1 free pass transfer rule. But when it's the second time, they have to sit a year. I mean, like no one should be able to go to a place 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and be on their 5th school. Now, let's segue this to lacrosse.
Right.
Lacrosse is not in a bad spot with that, because lacrosse, now that we're seeing the PLL and the PLL's grown and we have young boys who have aspirations to be great pro lacrosse players, the league is, only been in existence since 2019. So it's still building in terms of being a destination for an occupation and somewhere where a player can say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And now you're seeing more and more lacrosse players get involved in the sport and in other aspects on top of being a pro player, so they could be lacrosse 365. But lacrosse is still at a place where these young men and women go to these schools to play lacrosse, but also get the best education possible. So if you go to a Duke, if you go to a Virginia, if you go to a Notre Dame, are you really going to transfer and leave that academic institution unless that you feel like, I've exhausted all my options here athletically, it's not the right place for me? Maybe you'll leave once, but you're not seeing it nearly close to the level of football and basketball. Because lacrosse, I always say too, it's like it still has a little bit, and whether you like to say it or not, I grew up very blue collar, you guys did. The reality is, though, it's a bumper sticker type sport where, like, a lot of these people have aspirations to get that Princeton bumper sticker on their car, or a Duke bumper sticker, or Virginia or North Carolina. That's their final destination. It takes like the real dog to say, like, this is just a step in the journey. I want to go to Duke. I want to go to Virginia. I want to go to Princeton, but I want to be a tour time winner. I'm going to be the best. I want to be in the pros. I want to do all this lacrosse wise. Like, the education piece and the brand that's associated with these lacrosse institutions academically is so strong, where I just don't see it at the level of basketball and football happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it's geared more towards the grad guys, or some guys who maybe didn't find the right fit initially. But
Yep.
Like you said, I don't see many that are
And the grad stuff he's
thing.
going to tailor off now, because now that the Ivies, this is the last year. Like, the Ivies were a year behind everyone in terms of the
Right.
portal, because they lost 2001. So if you were a freshman in 2001, you could be using your 5th year somewhere else right now. And that's the last year of it. So we're gonna see this thing simmer down to a new level. And I don't think you'll see the transfers pop like we've seen it in the past. But with that said, you'll still see some movement, because the reality is we've kind of accepted the fact that it's okay to move on. And there are many situations where I advocate for a player to move on, but there's also, like, you don't want it to be the easy way out. Like, you want to exhaust all the options. You want to get to a point where you say, I'm not happy anymore here, so what's the point of staying? Then you need to leave.
Well, I can only tell you, going back to when I was in school, which is the late 70s, in college, the change, it was, if you were going to transfer, you had to be in that school for 1 full year before you could play on the team.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot more difficult
Yeah.
to first of all, you had to get accepted into a school. Then you had to go to school for the year, and you weren't able to play for the team. I guess maybe you could have practiced with the team, but that was about the extent of it. Now, even what happened recently with junior college, that they're not even going to count junior college towards your 4 years of playing. So, those junior colleges could really be a great training ground, but it just depends. Like, you said, there's other reasons in the sport of lacrosse. Obviously, the IVs and some of the other major universities that are high level in the sport are also some of the best universities, not only in the country, maybe in the world.
And the networking too, right? Like, you go to a place like Princeton, the networking opportunities there are incredible. You go to Duke, you go to Virginia. There's a ton of these schools. That Notre Dame, you have these opportunities once you're in that program, and you get exposed to, like, the upperclassmen and what they're doing and how their career trajectories are changing for the good. You say to yourself, like, lacrosse is super important to me, but there's life outside of lacrosse, and it's hard to beat X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. I just want to go back to something, you said before when we talked about school, Syracuse's rise again, their emergence last year, in the last couple of years. And, you talked about Notre Dame and the three-peat. What I thought's interesting about Notre Dame, that, winning it last year for the second time, that I found a little bit unique was, typically when I watch national championship teams, it was like, you play a season out and a coach starts to understand who the guys are he wants on the field. And as you get down to money time, you kind of shorten the bench.
Yep.
It seemed last year Notre Dame extended their bench into the playoffs, which, all of a sudden there were guys wanted to play. Riley Gray from Chaminade, who he had a decent year, but he all of a sudden seemed to be emerging even more towards the end of the season. So to me, that's a sign of really good coaching, and that's a sign of trust by a coach that anybody he fits into that is going to do a good job. And I think that's going to pay dividends for them.
Yeah, you're a smart man, Vinny. I couldn't agree with you more. And Kevin Corrigan rolled out a third midfield in the national championship. And, like, you see that big kid Finley from Atlanta, Georgia, number 6. You're like, who's this guy? And now you're looking at, oh, wow, he's got 2 more years now, too. So, like, now your third midfield becomes your second midfield the next year. And, like, you have more guys with experience in the middle of the field than anyone by a large margin. So Notre Dame's got, like, Will Donovan at the long stick midfield position. He's going to be, a terror in the middle of the field. Ben Ramsey as a short stick D-mid. He's one of the best in the country, if not the best. But then you have these two-way guys that kind of fly all over the field too. Right. And the fact that Kevin Corrigan went deep into that bench in 2024 just gives them so many more options from a depth standpoint in this coming year too. And that's why they're going to be the hardest team to beat.
And they're a three-peat. What you're saying, they're a three-peat.
But here's the question, Mark.
Well, nothing's guaranteed.
It's pretty much. I can tell you. I'm not in the game like you guys.
If it's guaranteed, why are we even having a season?
Right.
Well, I'm saying I'm giving them the points ahead. I mean, you got Cuse in there. You take the other 10 teams. I'm only going to see about 4 or 5 teams that keep making it to the Final Four.
Smalley, how many times in sports have we seen, like, who's beating these guys? And then they lack the chemistry, and maybe we're underestimating, like, what Pat Cavanaugh meant to that team. Like, they had all these pieces around them last year, but he was also the ultimate quarterback.
Exactly.
So now you're putting a freshman probably to start in Brady Picorni, who's super skilled, but he kind of plays more of a wing guy. Like, can Chris Kavanaugh can you just assume he's going to be the same quarterback as Pat Kavanaugh?
He doesn't seem like that player to me. Like, he seems like a
Pat
finisher type player.
Two-hand is right. That's why I was very vocal about him not being on the left side for the Boston Cannons last year. Pat Kavanaugh played left the whole season at Notre Dame. He played the two righties in Jake Taylor and his brother Chris. Put him on the left. He's a natural righty, but his left hand is as good. And if you are an attackman and you play the left side and you're a natural righty, what people don't understand is you open up so much more in terms of your righty game with your question mark, which he did all the time. Your roll back to a righty feed. Like, can we just assume that someone's just going to step in and assume that player is going to take the number one defender every single week and own the matchup, because that's basically what he did, to be a true quarterback, to be an incredible passer with all those finishers and goal scorers? Like, the one question I have, I'm not questioning Chris Kavanaugh as a dog and an unbelievable lacrosse player, but I am questioning, does Notre Dame have a true quarterback and a passer?
Right.
TBD.
Yeah. And I would say this, Carc, you nailed it. You know, I always say I feel like I share a brain with Carc. Was many times we're watching games, and even with my kids or my wife, and I'll say something, and then you say the exact same thing. I said, "This is it. This is this is my brother from another mother, maybe. I don't know." But I would say the two things with Notre Dame, obviously the depth is there. They get all the fruits of all the best recruits, all the transfers. They're loaded with talent. But lacrosse is a game where 10 guys go on the field. And the questions where they've lost are two very, very particularly important parts of the game of lacrosse. One, you mentioned the quarterback. That's a very important position. Is somebody going to be able to even fill those shoes and fill them as effectively in a team concept like they play? That's one. And number two, they got to replace a goalie that's when you get a goalie of that level like Liam Enterman, you're like feeling really good. You're like, wow, we got this guy forever. Like with Long Island Lacrosse Club, we had Larry Quinn, we had Sal Agasio. When you don't have that guy, is the next guy going to be that guy? You don't know.
You don't know, but Steven, Liam Enterman started for 5 years. He was a freshman the COVID year, right?
Right.
He was a starter when the season ended. He's the best goalie in school history. Hands down. He's got 2 national titles. He was the MVP in their first title when they finally won one. This guy had ice in his veins. Like, you can't assume that, Richard Dely's a great goalie, and I think he probably has the inside track, and there's a battle in South Bend, and he was, number 1 or number 2 goalie in the high school class. But just don't assume when live bullets are flying that he's going to be Liam Enterman. Does he have the potential to be great? Yes. But big game experience and not being rattled. Let's not underestimate that.
Yeah. That's my question. And, we might know that watching them for the first 3 games. You might be like, wow, they're a juggernaut.
And chemistry is also so important. I say this. My freshman year at Syracuse in 1994 was the best Syracuse team I played on. Our first midfield was Roy Colsey, Charlie Lockwood, and Dom Finn. At one point in time, they were all first-team All-American.
Lockwood.
Yeah, the only reason why all 3 weren't a first-team All-American the same year, they're not going to give 3, so they kind of rotated. Like, Lockwood was a 2-time first-teamer. Roy and Dom were 3-time first-teamers.
Right.
Roy was a junior. Charlie and Dom were seniors that year. The reality is they had a tough time playing together, right? So we didn't win a championship. We were the number 1 seeded team. We were up by like 6 or 7 goals against Virginia in the semis, and they came back, and Michael Watson scores the game winner. And we're going home on Saturday. The next year, no one picked us. No one could beat Hopkins. 95 Hopkins. They had Terry Reardon, Brian Picola. They were the team. They were undefeated. They pooped their pants in the semis against Maryland, and Brian Doherty completely dominated the game. We dominated Maryland on Monday. We beat them by 5 or 6 goals. Nobody ever gave us a chance. But the chemistry in that locker room in 95 was incredible. We had a bunch of role players and guys like Nick Licamelli, who nobody had a clue scored.
The alibi. See, that's a great story.
So my point is, let's just not assume that the best team's going to win.
That's
right?
so you won the finals? I don't know.
What?
You were just talking. You didn't get to the end point. Did you win that year?
Yes,
they won.
yes,
I didn't know. I don't know it like you guys. I'm sorry, but okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So you won
So
one.
my point is, does Notre Dame have the best players? Probably. They've 8 of the top 50 in the Inside Lacrosse preseason rankings. No team has more than 5 other than Notre Dame. But let's not assume that they've figured it all out.
You're right in everything you're saying. I agree with it. You're a savant in this sport, whatever. My point I was bringing out before, you don't have 15 teams that can win it like you got in basketball, as I'm in there. You maybe have 5, 6, 7 teams I could throw in there. It's really not that much. So when you got to give the edge to Notre Dame. The second, I give it to Cornell. I throw a Cuse in there. Maryland, North Carolina is like my outside pick. You're not going to have like a Rutgers in there. Where am I wrong?
Let me ask you this. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. Why is North Carolina in the mix? What have they done to make you believe that they're ready to make the jump? I'm not saying they're not, but I like
the kid, Vinny, help me out here. What's the kid's name? He knows I forget.
Well, Owen Duffy?
I'll answer that for Smalls.
He understands. I can't.
I think that Carolina showed some momentum at the end of last year. That win over Duke, where they had that big lead, they nearly almost could have, made the playoffs or whatever. Had they won that game, I think they needed a 6-goal differential, and they were up big. They showed some signs there last year, and I think that they could be a sleeper. I like some of the things they do. I mean, I
love Owen Duffy. Owen Duffy, to me.
Yeah, Duffy's great. They got some strong. The face-off guy's very strong. Look, you know as well as I do. When you're strong down the middle, it's like they say. You're strong down the middle of the field. When you got a good goalie.
I agree. I wanted to hear your perspective. I look at Carolina. I think Owen Duffy is an elite top 10 type talent in the country. Right? He is so electric. I think the next step for him is finding a way to feed off a Dodge when the attention's coming and they're sliding in when he gets off the school bus. He is as good of a young Dodger as you will see. I worry about his health and his pounding. He takes a beating on the field.
Yeah.
But he is an electric player. Wambach at the X in the middle of the field at the face-off dot is an incredible young talent. They also have Michael Gianfrancaro, who has a ton of experience from Princeton in the goal. They got him as a grad transfer. I think he has the potential to take over games. So, Vinny, to your point, great up the middle. My question is, do they have the offensive midfielders to really support the attack of Owen Duffy and Dominic Petromala? Because I think that was a weak spot down the stretch. Anthony DeMarco was he was dinged up last year. He didn't really play a ton. I think his health is really, really critical for them because he does show some flashes. But that's the question for me. I don't think they have the depth of scoring.
And then where do you place them? They're in the gauntlet. They're in the ACC. They got to contend with Notre Dame. They got to contend with UVA. They got to contend with Syracuse. I mean, where do you put them? I mean, that's
yeah. And we didn't even mention the Ivy. You look at the Ivy. Like the Ivy is so intriguing to me this year because you think about Cornell. Cornell has a generational talent. We don't throw that word around too loosely. Like CJ Kirst is a generational talent. He can take over games. He's the type of player like when they played on Long Island, they played Notre Dame. Everyone knew they wanted to get the ball to CJ Kirst. He still had like 7 points against Notre Dame. Like he is always prime in big spots.
That was a fun game, Carc.
Oh yeah,
I really enjoy stuff like that.
I wish I was tailgating with you guys. So
were you the announcer? Were you there? I don't even know.
No, we didn't do that. We didn't do that game. So when you think of Cornell, you have Kirst, you have Michael Long, okay, and then you have other pieces like the Goldstein kid. I think he's going to take a big jump this year. Like he was exceptional in spots. Ryan Goldstein, so quick. He's got a little bit of Michael Sowers his game. So that's their starting attack. Like good luck covering that attack unit.
Very good call on that, Carc.
Good luck covering that attack unit when they're all healthy. And then you have other players like Willem Firth and just exceptional talent at Cornell. They're a championship weekend caliber team. But let's not forget about like the other Ivies. Let's talk about Princeton for a second. Matt Madelon has done an incredible job recruiting. Did you know last year there was 7 Princeton players who should have been at Princeton if it wasn't for COVID using their last year of eligibility
Wow.
on other playoff teams.
Yeah.
So on the playoff field, 7 starters for Michigan and for all these other schools that were in the NCAA. Yeah, Syracuse had 2 that are in the NCAA tournament, starting 7 Princeton players.
Oh, so 7 Princeton players left their senior year to go. Is that what they did? Explain.
Well, no, they graduated, but you can't be a graduate student in the Ivy League and play your 5th year. So they had to play somewhere else, right?
Okay.
So they had 7 starters somewhere else. He's done an amazing job recruiting, and he still has a ton of talent. Coulter Mackesy, and there's just so many good players there. So, like, Princeton will be in the mix in the Ivy. And let's not forget about some other ones. Like Yale, if Yale figures a way to play defense, they can play with anyone. They score 15, 16, 17 goals a game. You have guys like Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons, and they're so low.
Both of those guys were out last year.
Both of those guys were out.
How about Pisano, my friend from
that kid could play. He's a mean defender. So like they have all the pieces. When you talk about a mean defender, though, there's other parts of defense that need to figure out. Their team defense straight up's been horrible in spots in the last bunch of years, right? Pisano can guard, but can the rest of the 5 guys play real defense? They haven't made stops, right? So that's their big question. And then for Penn, you look at what they have. The Lavelle kid on defense and Emmett Carroll in the goal. If you were to pick a tandem of 1 goalie and 1 defender, like Lavelle shut everyone down last year. He shut Brennan O'Neill down. Yeah. He shut CJ Kurse down. That kid is an animal, and he smacks dudes. And when the ball's in the middle of the crease area, you better run for cover because he's taking your head off. And then Emmett Carroll in the goal. So they're going to be the best defense, and they've shown that they can hold teams. So, like, to me, they're a little bit of an outlier in the Ivy because the Ivy's got all these offensive players and scores, and they have the defense. So don't be surprised
shut down a Kurse
games 9-7.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Carc. Can he shut down a Kurse coming into a game?
He did. He did last year. I did the game. He shut Kurse down. Lavelle was an eraser last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a great game.
I'm sorry because I can't pronunciate the name. How do you spell his name?
You can't even pronounce my name.
No, I can't, Carc.
Try it again.
I can't.
Come on, let's hear it.
Carcaterra.
Yeah.
Well, they taught me for a week. They taught me Carc. I said Carch. I used to think myself as Chicken Cacciatore because I couldn't get your name. No, I have a speech, just so you know, I have a very bad speech impediment as a kid, too, growing up, and it's still bad now. Vinny likes to laugh.
Never changed. God creates
I'm sorry.
Everyone
I am sorry for that, whatever, because I appreciate everything you do for the sport, but go ahead, Steven. Steven's the
I would say, we're talking about the conferences. So
yeah.
We moved around with the Ivy. What would you think in the Big Ten? What's your take in the Big Ten of those teams and the strength of because it seemed like last year that they were starting to emerge almost like if anybody was going to challenge the ACC as maybe potentially the next strongest conference, you could make an argument for the Big Ten.
The Big Ten to me is a little interesting. I thought Michigan last year and the year before, they had some really like incredible players like Mikey Boehm and guys that have been around for a long time that were part of the rise of that program. So they have big holes to fill, I think, in Ann Arbor, but they've been recruiting really well. We talk about brands and stuff. Michigan has an amazing brand. It's an iconic brand in sports. Yeah. So Kevin Conroy's been recruiting really well. He's going to have some young guys step up. I think Maryland, though, with John Tillman. John Tillman, from a consistency perspective, let's just be honest, is the best. He's the best coach.
He's the top.
He's the best.
That's our guy. That's our guy.
Tillman is the best coach.
That's my
He's
guy.
The best coach, if you look at it from a longevity standpoint over the last decade or so. Like, he's always in the mix. He wins. He wins sometimes with less talent, too. Like, everyone has to understand, like, when John Tillman's on the recruiting trail, he can't get every kid. The kids that look at Duke and Notre Dame, they don't look at Maryland. Like, John Tillman's finding pieces of the puzzle. He's bringing in guys from the portal. And every single year, they're in the mix. Like, that team, let's be honest, like, that team was not – they played really good defense last year. They were very inconsistent offensively. There were times in the season last year where they were kind of hard to watch. And he figured a way to get that team to a national championship Monday. Like, he's always going to have an edge from a coaching standpoint. Like John
He
Tony.
he definitely gets more with less. There's no question
Yes. So
about
I
that.
think Maryland will be in the mix. You know,
This is
they
him on the
have.
sideline. You ever see him? Not
What's
as big
that?
as this. He sits on the sideline with a little pad. I haven't seen a coach do it. And he writes
Yeah.
down every little ball the guy
He's
picks
got
up.
you
I
all
see him.
full. He's playing Candy Crush.
Right.
He's playing Candy Crush.
You know what I'm
Look,
saying? No, I saw him on the sideline. He never dropped a little pin, and he's writing
I know.
it.
You're absolutely right. And what have you seen since he's doing that? Now more people use iPads, right? Right? Like that's
we talked a little bit about that. In fact, Vinny thinks that it should be like football. The guy's up top. Because when we watch the games and you see it, right, Vin? Explain that. I can't explain
No,
that.
I always say, the next step would be like in football where you got two coaches up in the box looking down, because I know when I go to Hofstra and I watch games from the suites, you do have a different perspective when you're above, that different vantage point. I think you see things that maybe coaches don't see on the field.
I think you're spot on, Vinny. I think with the rules now that you have 4 paid coaches too, where it went from 3 and a volunteer to 4, like if your staff has like a nice complement of like a head coach, a really good offensive guy, and then a defensive guy, like that 4th guy should probably be up top, right? Like you can see a ton of stuff, right? You can see a ton of stuff. Let me ask you this though, Vinny. You are an absolute legend. One of the greatest players that have ever played the sport. You're on 4 world teams. That like no one's ever getting 5. Like that's just the reality. And I know you're a diehard Hofstra fan. Like what's your opinion right now when you're up in the box and you're watching that? Like what's your opinion?
My opinion, on different teams, like if you talk about the mid teams like the Hofstras, maybe even the Towson, those type of teams, my opinion has always been to get to that next level. Obviously, if you could recruit, you got to have players. Let's start with that. But if you don't have the players, I like to think outside the box. I would change my style of play. I would try to change tempo of the game. I would recruit. If I can't recruit the elite offensive type player, my next step would be try to find like a really athletic guys that could play both ways, like old school and not sub and push tempo, push it up the side really quickly and put the pressure on these teams before they could get the defensive players they want on the field. And it's the only way that you're going to really compete. You have to have that kind of plan because today you can't hold the ball because of the shot clock. I mean, back in the day, if you were a lesser team in your mind, maybe a coach, I'd say, let's take long possessions, shrink this game down, try to win it at the end. Can't even do that anymore because with the shot clock and all. So what's the next variation you can do? In my mind as a coach, I would be saying, you know what? I want to clear the ball on the far side away from the box, make them have maybe a longer run to get there. Maybe they don't get in so fast. They have shrunk the substitution box, so it makes it a little more difficult to get in defensively on a substitution, although they're so efficient at it now. It's almost like guys are like Canadian box players with their substitutions. They know how to get in and out fast, but there's still a way. This is what I don't see. I very rarely see in a clearing game, and I've watched from an overhead view, where guys literally could have thrown, and maybe coaches don't like it because it's a long pass, but these kids are so skilled today, you can do it. I see where the defender is not even covering the attackman if he pushes all the way up, where they could throw the ball over the top, right to that guy, and you can turn, and now it's almost like a 3-on-3 until everybody gets back in, and that's when I would attack. I would be attacking instant.
No, I like that. I think you almost have a mindset of like, if we're not going to be able to get the best players, stylistically, let's be a pain in the rear end to teams.
That's it.
Like the academies do in football with the option, right? Like you're going to have to prepare for us, and we might not be as good as you player for player, but our team and our identity, our DNA, we're so entrenched in that we're going to be a handful. I think that's smart, but I also think like there are some teams, we talk about, the Hofstras, and you mentioned Towson. Like Towson's a team, I look at them as kind of a dark horse. There's a couple teams out there that are really intriguing that I think could, on any given day, could clip a really good team. Towson's one of them. Albany's another. Like I think Scott Marr's got a few players there. He's got a kid by the name of Silas Richmond. To me, he's one of the most underrated players in the country. Like he wasn't even listed as a top 50 player. You watch him play, like when they played Virginia last year, they played him on a midweek game. I watched the entire game. He was the best player on the field. He had 7 goals against the Cavaliers. Wow. He is a big Canadian. He's like 6'3", 6'4". Scott Marr will let you play. You could be a risk taker out there. So he's a phenomenal player, and he's got a lot of talent back too. So I think Albany's a team to watch. I think Towson, Mikey Weishauer is a phenomenal player.
Yeah,
he's a first-team All-American talent at Towson. They return a ton of players. And then you guys were mentioning, obviously, the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten is going to be in the mix. Like, Michigan's replacing a lot of guys. Hopkins is replacing a lot of guys. But Hopkins does well in the portal, too. They took 2 Yale transfers that had another year of eligibility. They have the Collison kid who's got a ton of upside, the 6'4" Canadian. I look at them. Penn State, Jeff Tambroni, top 5 coach in the game, hands down. He'll get that team going. They have Fracion in the cage, who I think outside of Emmett Carroll is probably the best goalie in the country. Mm-hmm. And then you have a kid like Trainer who has Final Four, Final Four experience, and the long kid that plays offense with them. So Penn State could be a player too. So we have, the Ivy's a big chatting point. Notre Dame, obviously a big chatting point. Syracuse, can they take the next step? Because, the reality is when Syracuse plays well, they bring fan base and just a buzz around the sport that's a little different. There's just a ton of exposure up there that I think just the sport benefits when a team like Syracuse, a lot like Notre Dame in football, right? When Notre Dame is good in football, people either love them or hate them, but the eyeballs are on them.
Yeah. Is it going to be? I mean, the one thing I say, like with the teams that in your mind, like Hofstra, teams outside the top 25 or from 15 to 25, those schools, those mid-range schools, they start to maybe develop something and they get something going good, and then 3 kids leave, and they'll go to Maryland. So it's like twice as hard for them to climb up the mountain because they lose, they don't really get to maybe have those pieces as long. And so the rules work against them in that way a lot of times too.
That's a great point, because I think, prior to, in a prior point, when we were chatting here on this podcast, we were talking about like how people don't leave you don't leave in lacrosse if you're at a Virginia or a Duke or, some of these blue blood type programs. But there is movement from the lower levels, right? Like, and then there's schools like Jacksonville, and it all trickles down. Like, Jacksonville could lose a kid maybe to the portal, but Jacksonville's sometimes taking the best Division III player in the country at his position and making that team better. So I think the movement, you're spot on, Stephen. The movement isn't necessarily at the top. The movement is like, okay, Syracuse needs a short stick D midi, so they take St. John's as best guy, right?
So how does he get better? How does St. John's make the next
exactly
when they lose their guy?
That's happening. It's happening more at that level, where in college football and college basketball, the top schools still see a ton of transfers. Like Alabama, for example, they had like 10 kids hit the portal this year that are going somewhere else, right? What's the equivalent of Alabama in lacrosse? Maryland, like you don't see 3 or 4 kids, because there's half the amount of players on a lacrosse team. So I'm just saying, cut it in half. You don't see 3 or 4 or 5 players from Maryland bouncing and hitting the portal.
Right.
That's true. Now you see, the other thing to talk about maybe is, you have new teams emerging. Iona, I guess, is going to play their first season, right? This is their
first season.
Hofstra, the first game, and now they've announced that another team from Idaho is going.
I saw that. Yeah, Division II, I believe.
Oh, they're Division II? I thought they were Division I, possibly.
Maybe. I saw that. That broke like a couple days ago.
Yeah. I mean, so, you're seeing these teams emerge, and it's such a strange school, like in Idaho. Like
I know. It wasn't even the University of Idaho.
Move to a varsity team, it would be quite cool if some of the many of those SEC teams started to think about throwing lacrosse in as a varsity sport.
Well, we see it on the women's front. I mean, think about the women's Division I programs that don't have men's, right? Like USC, Clemson, Stanford, Florida. Northwestern, Northwestern, Vanderbilt. There's just a ton of big athletic departments too. And like they're putting the resources in there. Like when you are a Big Ten school, I mean, every single year, your athletic department gets tens of millions of dollars stroked your way on TV contracts.
What about Clemson? Have you ever been there and saw the field?
I've been, yeah. Last year I was down there with Charlotte North. We filmed the piece down there.
Wow.
Clemson's women's lacrosse.
So cool.
Has the best facility in the country, men's or women's.
Wow.
Hands down. It's the best.
Wow.
It's the best. It's all state of the art. It's brand new. So Clemson backed up the truck and they started women's lacrosse in the last 3 years and women's gymnastics. And they put all the resources into that.
How about the Final Four there? Can they hold it or it's too small?
No, it's too small. It's too small. But it's a great place, for just a regular season game. And it's a recruiting advantage. I mean, they're getting top recruits, Clemson women's lacrosse.
Yeah, they just got Spallina.
Yeah, look, you bring a recruiting group down on a Saturday for a Clemson football game, right? And you see those facilities and you see how they're behind women's lacrosse. Like that's eye-opening. They care about it. Now, when they care about it, there's going to be some. No,
it's a very beautiful. Yeah,
like you got to win. We're putting all this money in. Win.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. So,
Smalls, what question do you have for Carc? Come on,
Carc. No, I have a couple good. Hey, Carc, when you look for advice and stuff, now that you got to what I call rock star status, I know you're a humble guy, but you are now a rock star, believe it or not. Who do you look for advice? Like, who do you go to? I'm not talking about coaches, the guys that were great. On a daily basis, who do you call for advice? Like, you want to know something about a guy, who's your go-to guy? Do you talk to Rabel on the phone? Who do you talk to on the phone that gives you, advice about the game itself? Like, who are you close to? Like that kind of, like.
That's a great question. I think for me, the advice oftentimes is just like I reflect on asking myself the simple question, like, what would my dad do here? Because my dad was such an interesting person. So my dad grew up in the Bronx in public housing, had nothing. They didn't have, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And he was the first person in his family to go off to college. He went on an academic scholarship in high school to Cardinal Hayes. He graduated 6 out of 600 kids. Then he went off to Fordham on a full academic scholarship. And he taught in the South Bronx for 32 years in one of the poorest congressional districts in America. He passed away a few years ago. That guy was
I'm sorry, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he was my rock. He was the best man I've ever met. He knew nothing about sports, really wasn't an athlete, just loved his family, an old school Italian guy. He was an Italian mama's boy. So a lot of times I ask myself, like, what would my dad do in this situation if he wanted to do this? Like, it's a little bit of an outsider answer. Like, it's not inside where it's like I'm looking for the best lacrosse mind. And I think my dad was all about people. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because for me, I'm at the stage in my life with lacrosse is like I want to really get behind the storytelling aspect of it. I want fans to understand who these players are. And I think my dad's connection with people was the best that I've ever seen. So I oftentimes will speak to him in my mind, or I think about him and I think about some of the things that he would do to help promote people because he was all about people. He was the most selfless person I've ever met. So in growing the game of lacrosse, we can go nuclear and break down plays, X's and O's, but I think for this sport to grow, we want people to connect with the characters, and the characters are the players. And I think we need to tell these stories and do a great job of doing it. Now, we can't do that at the expense of not breaking games down. I understand that. That's why I've done things over the years where I've done drive-alongs and I've done haircuts and I do all these things in terms of giving fans an opportunity to learn more about the players. Not everyone likes that. There's some lacrosse junkies, the 10%, that are watching the games that want it at a nuclear level. And they're like, oh, here he goes talking about this. The reality is I don't really care, right? I'm at the point, like I said, where like I know what's true to me. And I want to push the envelope in that aspect. I also have some unique situations at home. I'm going to be honest. And I'm a very open book. I'm transparent about it. I have a 17-year-old autistic boy named Grayson. He's the best, but he's a big challenge. So when I get ridiculed or if a fan doesn't like something or if someone's tweeting at me with a fake name. I don't care one bit. I'm past that. Like, there was a point in time where I cared what everyone thought, but like, I struggle like every other human does. We all have our struggles. I struggle at home sometimes. Like, it's not easy having a boy that has so many challenges that he's going to need support for life. So he puts me in perspective. He gives me strength. Like, when I'm about to do a game, like, I think about him sometimes. I think about his struggles and how fortunate I am and how, he's made me stronger. He's made me numb to criticism. It's not saying I don't take feedback. I'm very easy to work with. Anyone who says something, I'm respectful and I understand it. But like, when it comes to someone who has a problem with what I'm doing, or if wants to bash me on Twitter, I could care less. I'm so strong-minded in that respect that doesn't rattle me. But there are people in the sport that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Like, I have relationships with so many people in the game, whether it's college coaches, it's friends, it's colleagues. Like, the beauty of the sport of lacrosse, and we're talking to a few of them right here with you, Smalls and Steven and Vincent. Like, people love the game. So every day that I have a conversation, whether it's a friend like it's a Dan Denahan, or my brother Brian, or if it's Andy Towers, it can be anyone. Like, the game of lacrosse has so many awesome people who love it and love it from a pure perspective that, like, it's like osmosis. You pick it up every day. So I live this sport 365 days a year. So when I'm having conversations with you guys, or I'm having conversations with great friends, I'm absorbing information. Like,
that's good. Yeah,
it makes me who I am, because I take pieces of all of them.
Let's go
And
back.
that's why I say, Carc, that's why I say it really is truly the medicine game.
It is. Absolutely.
Let's go back to.
Hey, Steven, hold on one second. Steve,
I want to go back.
I just want to say something about his son Grayson, who I met.
Go ahead.
Very, very, very quickly. And I don't know how to articulate like these guys. So I never really knew your status, that you were growing in the sport and everything. I was able to get invited to a big USA dinner. And I said to Vinny, how much is it? He said, don't worry about it. Just come to the city, blah, blah, blah. I said, how much do I got to pay for the table? Usually I pay whatever. But he has a lot of guys. He says, no, come, Chris Hines got a table. I went there, and they were doing a fundraiser. And he says, Smalls, this Carcaterra. I didn't know your name. I said, who's the guy? He's a big guy in the sport. So I was watching. They were fundraising at the end of the table. The guys going, oh, you can buy these tickets for the NFL Super Bowl. They start out at $5,000. I waved my hand. Then I looked. There's another guy waves his hand, $7,000. There's another. I go, Vinny, look over there. Your friend. What's his name again? Carcaterra. I kept messing the name up. He goes, I go, this. I reckon. I looked over. I couldn't tell because your son, you must have brought him, Grayson.
I brought him, yeah.
You brought him to the game. And I said to myself, because in my mind, I understood it. And I'm looking, I go, he kept raising his hand, and I raised my hand, $10,000, $15,000. I think the tickets, because it was for the sport, $20,000. And there I am sitting there. I go, Vinny, that's the guy. And only Vinny understands my language, because I had a lot of issues growing up. I said, Vinny, that's the guy. He goes, what do you mean? I know. It's a little kid's son. He kept raising his hand, raising the bid. So Grayson, after the thing, in my mind, this is how I see it, and I want to credit yourself. And again, I always don't know how to articulate. Like Vinny, I said, Vinny, there's something about the guy. He said, what are you talking about the guy? Carcaterra. I kept messing your name up. So then about 6 months later, they invite me to some place, Lake Placid. I'm up there, and this guy says, my name is Carcaterra. I didn't know there was two of them, Goldie. I thought it was you. I said, is that the guy with the kid? And then it all went together. I said, Vinny, get me this guy's number. I want to send him a little package up for his son, Grayson, because I saw you with your son. And to me, when I saw you with your son, I understood it. It meant so much to me. I said, you know what? Here's a man who's on the top of the hill, and he's going out, and he brought his son to the big USA dinner. So my gift is to you and the love of the family and what you did.
That was really touching.
I was able to see that and sent you. And you wrote me. Do you remember writing me something?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to know who it was. Yes.
And then your son, you told me he wore it to school. I forget what it was, a jacket or something.
It was a sweatshirt with the Lake Placid flag.
Oh my God. And then when I'm interviewing your son, I remember getting up after, going to the table, talking to your son. How you doing? My name is Rob. I said, who's your favorite team in lacrosse? And you heard me say that. And I think he said Maryland or something. He didn't even say.
He likes Tillman.
Did he say Maryland?
Probably.
No, but that's how my interaction with him.
No, that means a lot. And you know what? Like when you're a young person, right, and you get married and you start a family, like you have these dreams and aspirations. Like you don't foresee having a son with challenges, right? Yeah. Like if you were to ask me at 24, 25, oh, I'm going to have a son, he's going to be the next Casey Powell.
He'll be an All-American, correct.
Yeah, exactly. So that's obviously not the route that was presented to us. But there's been a lot of gold within that journey in that route too, because you figure certain things out and you figure out who you are and your bigger purpose in life. It's not about how many goals your kid could score, or it's not an ego thing. You want to help other people and you want to also normalize it, because the more that I can tell people like the daily struggles we have, because there's tough days here, there's great days, but the tough days, and if we're honest about them, it gives people an opportunity to understand that like life isn't easy for everyone. And it's okay if you're struggling too. And if you have a son who's autistic, or you have, certain challenges within yourself or your family, that we can normalize them a little bit and not feel like we have to hide, right? Like I am who I am, man. Like I'll bring my kid to a lacrosse dinner. And if some people don't know,
that told me who you are. That told me, who you are. And then when you mentioned your dad, I understand where you came, but thank you very much for that story. Go ahead, Stephen.
I want to go back, but, just to touch on some of that, obviously we've known you for many, many years. Brian was a teammate of ours with the Lizards, and I loved Brian. Brian was
great guy.
One of my favorite teammates to be around, always a smile on his face, always fun to be around. You're much the same way in terms of that. And that's what lacrosse is about, these families connecting and that overall fraternal feeling that you have with other groups, whether you played with them, against them. It's very special, the sport, to have that. But going back, since your family, you're a Yorktown family, right?
Yep.
And so what was your introduction to the game? How did it all come about? Like from that perspective, because obviously your family has such a love for the game. You were introduced early on, I imagine.
Yeah. So my parents, were from the Bronx, and I was born in the Bronx. And my dad, when he was looking at, some houses to leave the city and go up, north to Yorktown, which it's only about 30 miles, but people look at it as like upstate, stumbled upon Yorktown, New York. He knew nothing about the lacrosse program there. He knew nothing really about sports. Like my dad played some like street basketball in the neighborhood. He didn't play on organized sports. My mom was not an athlete at all. My mom was like, she used to call the couch her gym, right? She used to love to watch soaps. Like she was the best woman in the world, probably the worst in terms of keeping a house intact. Like the house is, I'm a neat freak. Like I'm meticulous about everything. I'm scarred because my mom let anything fly. Like we were raised by wolves. Like we were driving cars when we were 13, 14 years old. Like she had no rules, but she was the best. Like when I talk about parents that never put pressure on sports, like I could have the worst game of my life, shoot 1 for 19. She's like, "Oh, you look great out there." And I'm like, "Did you watch the game?" Don't worry about it. What's the fuss? Don't worry about it. You're fine. Where do you want to eat? Like they put no pressure on us. So when they came up to Yorktown, it's the same thing. There was no like, we're not moving to Yorktown to play lacrosse. Like my dad found a house for $40,000 and just figured a way how to buy it. And we were living in Yorktown. Little did we know, like the 3 boys in the house, my older brother, Steve, me, and Brian, and we have a younger sister as well. Like the 3 boys, we were rabid about being outside and we loved sports. We stumbled upon Yorktown, which was a rabid lacrosse town. Like I always tell people, like growing up in Yorktown was like growing up in an Indiana basketball town or Texas football, Canadian hockey. Like the culture of the town. Like everything revolved around lacrosse, right? Like that's where the big crowds went to watch games. And that's where like the best athletes in the school all played or wanted to play. So in fifth grade, which was early then, people weren't playing lacrosse in first, second grade back then in the 80s. Fifth grade, Yorktown had a program, and my best friend at the time was Rob Cavavit. His older brothers played. He's like, give lacrosse a try. So I was in fifth grade. My brother Steve was in eighth. We started the same year. We got the bug, and we just could not stop playing the game. But on top of just playing the game, like I got really caught up in the culture of the sport too. So there's a guy named Charlie Murphy who lived in Yorktown. He lived right up the road from us. He brought lacrosse to Yorktown. His house was an open door. He lived on an apple orchard where there was 3 goals in the back. There was wall ball to play. Everyone watched lacrosse tapes and, ate and hung out there all the time. Every day I took the school bus to his house to train and play wall ball. I became a junkie. I strung everyone's sticks. I was doing dye jobs back then for everyone's sticks. I was a ball boy for the varsity team. So for me, like, I didn't want to be Michael Jordan or Joe Montana. I wanted to be Tommy Nelson. I wanted to be Scott Marr. Like that's what I wanted to be growing up. So like it was such a great town and it was so pure. And from a relationship standpoint, it was just the best place. Like there was no divide in terms of generations. Like I'm friends with guys from Yorktown that are 70. I'm friends with guys from Yorktown that are 25. And like it's you talk about fraternity, like that place is bonkers for lacrosse. Like if you play lacrosse there, you are taken care of in terms of people watch out for you. They do whatever they can for you. There's a lot of nuts in that town too, man. Like we could write a book one day and there's some shady characters and some hilarious people, but they're all Yorktown guys and they're ours. So like it just, to me, it was the best place to grow up because the sport was prioritized, but the relationships were more than the sport. And that's what I love about the game. Small, you were asking me like, who do I turn to? Like, there's not one person. There's 100.
Yeah, your life is like, yeah.
Text change with all these people.
I get it.
Like when college lacrosse season rolls around, like I'm on a text chain with Dan Denahan and John Gagliardi, my brother Brian and Sean Denahan and Brian Percola. Like we're breaking down every game, and there's another text chain of my Cuse friends who are disgruntled when we lose a game, and like the dialogue and the exchange. Everyone loves the game so much that it makes the sport so special for me. Like I cover college football for ESPN, and I really enjoy it, but nothing beats lacrosse for me. Like if you told me you can do the biggest college football game, or you could do Virginia, Maryland, and lacrosse, I'm not even thinking twice about that. I'm doing Virginia, Maryland, and lacrosse. That's where I want to be. I don't care if the ratings are 1/10 of what that football game would be. That's where I want to be. And I am that way because of the way I was raised in the town I grew up in Yorktown.
So now your energy is priceless.
So
your energy is completely priceless on the game. No doubt about that. You bring so much energy to the game. People want to listen. You got the whole thing going on. I don't know how you get it every time you do it. You got to make it up. I think it's just in you to do it.
Look, there's been games where like I feel like I'm going to black out. Like I'm like, holy shit, I'm on TV still. I need to
So you mentioned at the times in Yorktown, in those days in maybe the late 80s and going into the 90s, there sort of seemed to be like a funnel to go. A lot of guys did go to Syracuse. You mentioned the Nelsons, the Yorktown guys, and they ended up at Syracuse. And I know there was some that would go to Hopkins too. I mean, obviously they had a lot of great players, but it seemed like there were these funnels that went you either went north or south in a way.
You're absolutely correct, to the point where there's a young man at Yorktown right now. He's maybe the best goalie in the country. His name's Hunter Mezzatesta. He's going to Virginia, and people are like, wait, we've never sent a guy to Virginia. That's whack. Like, why is he going to Virginia? He should be going to either Syracuse, Hopkins, or Maryland, right? Like that's exactly the funnel. So the funnel for me, like I worship Tommy Nelson, and he was stringing my sticks when I was younger, and I learned how to string sticks because of him. And when he'd come home over the breaks, like my eyes would light up if he was at Mr. Murph's house. Like I had to get there. I had to like have a catch with him. So like Syracuse was always a place. So we funneled kids up there, whether it was, the Nelsons or Roy Colsey or Dom Finn. And then you had the Hopkins contingency, with Scott Marr and Billy Dwan and my brother Brian and Robbie Dorr and then Chris Watson. So absolutely, there's a pipeline.
But your dream was
play with my brother Brian in college,
right.
But back then, now the big time schools will recruit a goalie every year. They only recruited goalies every 2 years. So they recruited a goalie the year before Brian. So it wasn't really an option for him to go to Cuse. So he went to Hopkins and. He had an amazing opportunity for him and experience.
So what was that experience like at Syracuse when you made your way there with Roy Simmons and the crew up there? What was that like?
It was long-term. It was incredible. But I'm not going to lie, freshman year when fall ball was over, and it's a little different now. These kids are training all year long. There's really no off season. When fall ball ends, they're still meeting with the team every day to lift, run. Coach Simmons after fall ball, it's all right, we'll see you in January. Fall ball's over at the end of October. We didn't have that structure like they have now. So there were some tough spots for me because I was a little bit of a
who recruited you?
Yeah, I was a homebody, so I missed home. Freshman year was a little rough, but once the season rolled around freshman year, I absolutely loved it. And Roy Simmons Jr. was the best coach for me. And to this day, every time I'm up in Syracuse, whether I'm covering a college football game, college lacrosse, it's non-negotiable in my mind. I see him. I go to his house. We chat for a few hours.
Wow.
I absolutely adore the man. I think he was the best coach I've ever had. And I learned nothing X's and O's about him, from him. And you're going to say to yourself, how's the best coach that you've ever had? You learn nothing X's and O's because he instilled a confidence and a power in you that you felt like you could take on the world, right? There were games where you'd be in the stretching line and you'd be on your butt, doing your hamstring stretch or whatever, and you feel something on your shoulder and he'd whisper into your ear, you're going to take this game over. Do you know what, how powerful that is? Or if you made a mistake, you knew you were, John Desko might blow up on you on the sideline, but Roy Simmons, your head coach, is going to put his arm around you. And he taught you so much about life, and he taught you about how to build a team. In sports are teams, but the world has teams too. You guys are a team. The three of you are a team, and you start, doing something together. And he did that by making everyone feel important. So if you were the 48th guy on the team or you were Casey Powell, Roy Simmons made sure that he touched you in some way, and he made you feel important.
I like that.
Made the locker room so powerful because when the guys who don't play have a purpose and have a feeling that they're part of something, there's no divide. When a coach only coaches his stars, it gets scary, man. The wheels fall off the bus.
Yeah. Clearly, every Syracuse guy we've ever played with and the way they talk about him is very similar to have the same experience you had, which made him, very unique guy.
Yeah, he was so unique. He used to, when we go on road trips, we'd stop at museums where you'd eat weird food. We'd do so much stuff that, at the time, you're whoa, why are we going to this museum? You look back, you're wow, man, he subtly taught us so many really, really cool
memories
things about life.
That's
memories. I don't remember anything he told me. I don't remember one thing lacrosse. I did one thing. But look, you look at you look at the back.
I was wondering what all that was. Yeah, the football. That's the undefeated. What is that? I can't
Bill
read it.
Belichick gave me that. That's a
What?
Right here is Roy Simmons Jr. and me.
That's awesome. Carc, you should write a book, man. Really sit down one day and don't blow it off with you've crossed so many different barriers, and then you had the upbringing.
The other thing, Smalls, you don't realize he's very cutting edge.
I don't really know him. That I never knew who he was.
So after college, and maybe maybe this was a little bit longer. What year did you finish college?
97.
97. Okay, so it wasn't that much longer. Carc was on the cutting edge of the youth club explosion. And there's not many probably people who don't even know, but our nephews, they were no limit.
Yeah.
No limit.
Yeah, with gags.
That was a for real club experience on the initial infancy of
and you know what? It's Steven, the reason why I stopped doing it Like we were doing club lacrosse way back when, before anyone had it. Like there was not one club team in Westchester, and there were hardly any on Long Island. So John Gagliardi and I, who had these no limit lacrosse camps back in the day, were like, let's start a club team. And I have all the Yorktown kids, and you have the Manhasset and Long Island kids. We'll bring them together, right? And there was no mission in terms of getting recruited. It was just to be able to play at the highest level.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I remember it started changing. And then I remember people were like, yo, you got to convince this kid to play for you. I'm like, I'm not doing that. 6-7 years later, I'm like, I handed the business to one of my friends. I'm like, hey, only in America can I give you a profitable business for free. Here it is. It's yours. I'm done, right? Because like I didn't get into this to convince kids that they should play on my travel team. Or I'm going to promise this kid he's going to get recruited. Like Gags and I, he's a Hopkins guy. He played with Brian. He's from Manhasset. I'm from Yorktown. We became like best friends. He's my daughter's godfather. We're super close. We're like, look, he had all these kids from Long Island. I had these kids from Yorktown. They needed a place to play. We brought them together, and it was amazing. And then the sport started changing, and it started following like the soccer model, which, look, there's incredible clubs out there. And like my daughter plays club lacrosse, and she's had the best experience, and I wouldn't change any of that. And there's a lot of disgruntled people in the field. It just wasn't for me.
Disgruntled is right. Paul, I got a little bone to pick with you. May I?
Sure.
Somebody said this. I don't know if it's true. I got to throw a monkey wrench. Vinny's going to yell at me. Vinny, I didn't know what this was. Somebody told me I was in Lake Placid that you came up with the word FLIDS, F-L-I-D-S. You know what it is, Vinny?
Come on, man. That word's been around a lot longer. Maybe I
don't know that Carc came up with it.
Hey, Carc, you know what it is, though? In all due respect, I love you because these guys know I'm a short attention span, so they set me up with a lot of stuff, and then they laugh at me. But
I love Long Island people. Long Island people, they're a lot like Yorktown people, man. There's a passion and pride of where they're from. Look, man, and Long Island people are tough as nails. I don't throw that word flit around, but I'll laugh at it. I tell people, man, Long Island people are so tough because chances are their dad sat in traffic for three hours a day, came home pissed off, right? Maybe got a little like temper tantrums or whatever, and the kids had to grow tough, man.
I never knew what it was, Carc. I was at an event with Vinny, and I'm standing there, I'm about to fight these guys, right, Vinny? Remember these guys are yelling? I'm standing there by myself.
Yeah, we were at a game in Placid.
I was in Placid.
Somebody's yelling FLIDS. I never heard it before, and because I don't know.
They said I started it.
Somebody said, yeah, Carcaterra, because your brother was standing over there. He started it.
No, the one word that the town of Yorktown is responsible for is booch, though. Have you ever heard of booch? Like, don't booch me?
Oh, yeah, I heard of booch.
Look, I'm being honest. That started in Yorktown. We had a kid named Booch, and the way that we would booch people is like, if you had the worst hat in the world, Vinny, I'm like, yeah, man, I love your hat. That's great. Just messing with the guy. You booching me? You booching me? Or if the offense was dreadful, like, yo, the offense is really good today. You guys are figuring it out, right? Like, dude, you booching me? It's terrible.
Hey, Vinny, give him some good questions, Vinny, out of the archives.
Well, I got.
Come on, Vinny, give it to him.
I want to know when you decided that this was going to be your career, that you enjoyed broadcasting and that you wanted to expand the game in your own way as a broadcaster. And I mean, I know Syracuse is known for, there's schools up there for that, aren't there?
Yeah, no, Newhouse School of Communications, best in the country, but that's not.
Oh, that's your career? I didn't know it's his career.
Yeah, that wasn't my plan. So I wanted to stay involved in lacrosse. I started coaching and teaching in Westchester County in Bedford, New York at Fox Lane. And I had a friend from Syracuse who was in communications working for CBS Sports at the time, which was CSTV. I got a call on a random, Tuesday night. Like, hey, are you around to call a game on Saturday? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we need an announcer. There was a conflict. Army's playing Navy. This is 2004. And if you asked me the day before, do you want to be a broadcaster? I would have been like, what are you talking about? And I remember saying to myself, sure, I'll give it a try.
Wow.
And back then, I walked into the booth. I was absolutely clueless. No one told me what to do, how to do it. And I just remember leaving. I'm like, wow, this is I feel like I'm in the game again. And I had this void.
Cool.
I had this void in my life. Like I was coaching and teaching, but like as much as I enjoyed coaching and I enjoyed teaching, I felt like to be around the game at the highest level, I'm like, this is where the drive is for me. Like this is what I want to be a part of. And I always thought I like saw the game a little bit differently, and I was able to actually translate it to people and be in a situation where I could do this. So I remember after that game, I did one game that year. The next year they had an entire season open at CBS Sports, which is CSTV at the time. And I auditioned with a bunch of other guys. I remember going down to the city and I saw some other lacrosse guys going in and out auditioning too. And I ended up getting the spot. And that first year, I worked an entire season with Joe Beninati. And I tell Joe all the time, that was a gift. That was a gift for me. Because if I had started with someone who dealt with the occupation or the position differently and was a little bit laid back, I wouldn't have understood how to really piece it together. Joe was a complete professional. So anal with his craft that this was the first experience that I had. And this was the first time I was exposed to it. So I thought like, okay, if I'm going to do this, this is the way you have to do it. You have to do it like Joe. And having Joe year one, I tell people all the time, like that changed my trajectory.
Did he like you? Did he like you, or did he find you annoying maybe?
Ask him. I don't know. Two Italian guys. I hope he liked me.
Sometimes the first year, though,
he's very set in his ways, and he's incredible at what he does.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And he's so professional, and like I was able to take pieces of what he was doing and bring my own little personality into it. I thank him all the time. I tell him all the time, man, you were so critical in terms of the way that I do.
We all need people.
I got a question.
Alive, right?
I got a question for you on the broadcast. I'll spin it in this way. You know, much like a team, you'd be like, okay, I'd like Carc on my line because you know I feel like I could feed him, and he's a good shooter, and he'll finish. It's got to be a little bit like that when you're working within a team with different guys in the booth. Like, who are guys like? Do you get a sense of like who you feel most comfortable or symbiotic with, where you feel like you've put your best stuff out there with particular guys?
Yeah. Look, I think like anything in life, you have to grow with people, right? Like I always try to pride myself on being a great teammate and understanding like. There was a book I read years ago. It's called The Go-Giver. And like this guy gives away his trade secrets and he's so transparent and he doesn't. People are like, why is this guy doing this? Because everyone else is going to benefit. Like if you have that mindset and you don't worry about like giving people certain types of things or information or giving yourself to a broadcaster, or maybe there's information that you're putting out there that like, why would you do that? Like you're giving away your trade secrets. I feel like if you're that kind of teammate, you'll always win in the end because everyone will want to be around you. Right. So like if you could just always give and have that mindset, I think you're going to land in the right spot. So I think most people that work with me understand, like, I don't have an ego. There's many things that I'm deficient in life. Like I'm not an ego person. I'm easy to work with. I always I try to value people and build people up. But like anything, like there's different types of people that you work with. So as an analyst, like if I'm working with Anish Shroff, like I feel like my mind is more on like the story of the game, and it's bringing in like pieces of humanizing, right? Like and you're able to tell a story through a game. When I'm working with Chris Cotter, I get so amped up, like my hair's on fire, right? Which is like, so there's certain aspects like it's great to work with Chris. It's great to work with Anish. So like to me, I think it's a beautiful blend, but there's a different mindset with each teammate. It's like if you're playing on a line with Steven, if you're playing with Gary and you're playing with Vinny, it's different. Like you play with Gary, like you have to be expecting the unexpected, right? Like he's not going to dodge the same way. When you're playing with Vinny, like your off-ball placement is going to be amazing. Like I remember watching Vinny one time. I'm like, no wonder this guy's like one of the greatest that's ever played. Like he never stops moving and he knows exactly where to go when a guy is dodging this way, and his backdoor cuts and the way that he plays off ball is amazing. And if you play with him, you better be able to play at that level. Where if you play with Gary, it's going to be different. But you could love to play with Gary and you could love to play with Vinny. So they're different. So when I'm in the booth as an analyst, like my mind shifts when I'm working with an E. Schroff or a Chris Cotter or a Drew Carter, who's an up and coming rising star in the profession. Like for a young kid, like the way that he lets the game breathe and lets me kind of take over is something that I feel like is really cool to feel and to weave in through a broadcast, because like he just gives like the most little subtle little alley-oops, right? Where it just could take a broadcast to another level. And then there's other analysts who you work with. So like there are games where it's just me and the play-by-play, but if I'm doing a PLL game with Ryan Boyle, like I'm going to let Boyle go nuclear on certain things. And I'm going to say, like, I'm going to lean on him a little bit more to break a play down and, you know, and have the artwork of showing why X, Y, and Z happen. It's like the little beautiful mind aspect of it. But I'm going to try to speak more in this broadcast to the person who's tuning in, and I want to hook as a PLL fan, right? Like I want to give the game a more like treetop experience, so we could get a new fan involved, right? Like if it's on ABC, someone's flicking through, like if my hair's on fire and I love what I'm talking about and I'm promoting these players, like someone who's watching is like, oh, maybe I'll sit here and watch this, right? So like I want to grow the game a little bit more like that, or I want to give it in an easier, digestible way if he's going nuclear, right? Like I'll break down Rob Pennell's question mark, where just a sports fan will know something about his plant foot or the way he used his body without like having to get too crazy, right? And then if I work with Quint, our relationship has grown quite a bit. Like when we first started working together, it was hard because I think Quint was in a situation where it was just him for a while. And then I came along. This is many years ago now, but like our relationship is spectacular now. Like we feed off each other and we use each other for information, and he's become a great teammate, and I hope I've become a great teammate of his, but it wasn't always that way. It's like anything, man. Like Steven and Vinny Sombrado are playing from Long Island Hofstra. This new kid comes in. It's like, whoa, you're going to have to learn the way that we play, right?
Carc, I understand. I haven't been accepted yet. I get it, Carc.
What did Billy tell the kid when he put him on the line?
What's that?
Vin, what did Billy Barroza tell the kid when he was going to play with us one night? Do you remember?
I don't remember. What did he say?
He said, you're going to go play with the Sombrados. Just stay out of their way.
Yeah, exactly. But I know you two well enough. If you see a kid come in and he has passion and he's open-minded and he wants to learn, you'll take him along with you.
Well, Blake Miller was the perfect.
Very well said.
That was
the best thing you said all day.
Very well said. Look, Blake Miller's career, Blake Miller finding you guys is like me finding Joe Beninati. Blake Miller would have been a nobody without you guys.
Wow.
Let me ask you something, Carc. Do you go back and watch the games that you broadcast and, you know, self-critical and like could have said it this way or that, like you would break down film of a game?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
You just move to the next.
I am such a junkie that I watch more lacrosse than anyone. Like I watch every game that's streamed. I watch every game that's on linear real TV. Like I am so caught up in watching what's next and breaking things down. I really don't live in the past. In my mind, I already know what I did wrong. Like I have these self notes to myself. Like I don't like how I said that. I'm not going to say that again like that. Like I know like I was way too long winded on that. Like I have those always spinning in my head. I don't like going back and watching it. It almost feels a little strange to me. And I don't want to like, I want to live in the moment. I want to live in the moment. And I know this is a free flowing sport and there's no two plays. There's no two games that are going to be the same. Sure.
I learned a very valuable lesson, and I don't like to give Vinny credit because I'm always challenging him in politics. But anyway, Vinny was challenged one year when he was playing on one of the world teams. I don't know which one, but one of the coaches came to him and said, "Hey, Vinny, would it be all right if I took you off the line? I'll let him finish when I'm done. Take you off the line because I need you on defense to do this."
Look, absolutely. It's about finding a place in your team. And the people who really know the sport will will gravitate towards those type of players anyway. Like case in point. So my daughter plays on a club team. There's a girl on her team. Do you guys remember the player from Virginia, Drew Melchione?
Oh, of course.
Okay. He has a daughter, Claire Melchione. She's a freshman. They're on a travel club team. Claire scores once, I don't know, maybe every 2 or 3 games. She's not a big scorer. When I tell you, if you take Claire off this team is drastically different. She gets every ground ball. She clears the ball every single time. She plays great defense. She is, to me, like a complete unicorn. Like when she gets to the recruiting years, if you don't find value in this girl, like you don't know lacrosse. Like she is a complete Swiss Army knife, and she's all over the field. And to your point in that conversation with Dave Urich, like Dave Urich knows where your value was for that team. Did you guys win a gold that year? Yes, in '86. You won. Like, so for me, there's those players. There's like, you know, in men's lacrosse, it's Zach Currier, it's Ryan Conrad. Like those are the guys. Like if you ask the coach, you can't win without them, right? You can't. You could find some goal scorers. You'll find finishers, but like, show me another Zach Currier. I'll wait. Like, right? Like who plays in those kind of plays like that Zach Currier consistently makes? If you know the game of lacrosse, you say to yourself, the game was won here. Like I remember I was out in Utah a couple years ago in the PLL, and he made the vintage Zach Currier play. Like he was on a face-off, and he's not even a face-off guy. He lost the face-off, and I think it was like Sisselberger was trying to retreat to kind of throw the ball back to clear. He trail checks the guy, scoops the ground ball, like fishes it up, and they score 2 passes later. Like the only guy who's making that play is Zach Currier, because no face-off guy has the stick skills of Zach Currier, right? And no one can also have those kind of stick skills, but also can track a guy down. Those are the players you want. Me, look, like
wow.
Wow.
I don't know. I've seen some serious things Brian's putting out.
Let me explain why.
He marinates.
Yeah, to our point, like being that guy that just gets it done and having like the Zach Currier approach where you could do a little bit of everything. Like Brian is as good of a cook as he is, and I will say he's very good. A lot of it's like, you know, it's out there for the masses to look at. I'm in my kitchen quietly doing my thing, feeding my family, feeding anyone who walks in, and I'm not going to post about it all the time, right? I'm not going to post about it. So he's gotten to a level, like I give him mad props on the barbecuing, the meats. He's exceptional. I'm way better of an Italian cook than him. My sausage and peppers, you know, everything. Like I do a beautiful vodka sauce. I love a bolognese. Like I've got that stuff nailed down. My brother Steve makes the best meatballs in the family. You know, we had a grandmother. I had the same recipe as my grandma Mary. My dad was the cook of the house. My mom was a terrible cook. My dad was an exceptional cook, and he had my grandma Mary's recipe. My grandma Mary was like a 4'11" Italian lady, like couldn't even see the top of the sauce thing, right? But she was incredible. So I use her recipe. But like anything, Italians, like they don't measure anything. So my brother Steve just has better feel on the meatballs. But Brian is a great cook. But he also wants everyone to see what he's doing. Like I don't need to see every step of the way.
I got a few questions, Steve, before you go, and then we'll sort of, it's kind of all over the place as I am. Thank you for accepting me, young man, Carc. I just want to know, what the hell were you drinking through this episode? Because your energy even spiked more. What do you drink? Water? What's in there?
No, I drink the electrolytes, like the LMNTs.
Oh, okay.
I don't eat normally during the week. I don't eat my first meal till about noon. I work out in the morning. I wake up, I have a cup of coffee. I work out. I try to really get after it a little bit.
Like a quick fast, like Vinny. They don't eat till 12, 1 o'clock. Like
then I eat like an animal a lot of times too. Just
because your weight is, you look great. I mean, what's
I work out, so I work out like a dog, so I can eat like
What
an Italian.
size are you? Because we're sending you a small package, you and your son Grayson. What size are you now? Are you a large or a medium?
I'm probably a large, but I like to wear like sweatshirts. I wear a little bigger, so extra large.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You don't need to go nuts.
No, we ain't going nuts. You have to. And what size is Grayson? I know
He's a
grew a little
large.
bit.
He likes his stuff big.
A large, okay. And a couple other questions I have, a little off course here. I got my picks for the week. I just want to see what your pick. Notre Dame or Penn State?
Oof.
Just give me that pick.
Like,
just so you know, your answer's going out to a lot of
who
people.
would finish? Who's going to finish better? Are you asking?
No, who's going to win the game?
Oh, the football game. Oh,
yeah.
I'm going with Notre Dame. I like their defense.
Wow.
I think Notre Dame's
like
defense is really good on third down.
Yeah.
Penn State kind of can struggle on third down. I think Drew Aller, their quarterback, is an excellent quarterback, but I don't know if he's like a feast or famine type quarterback.
Texas, Ohio
that
State.
makes that risky play. Like he's kind of.
No, you're right. I agree with you on that.
I think Notre Dame, Al Golden, their defensive coordinator, is doing a fantastic job.
Notre Dame is getting.
Yeah, their defense is nasty right now. You saw what they did to Georgia. So I like Notre Dame in that game.
All right,
but
Texas, Ohio State.
I think it's going to be close. I mean, Ohio State looks like
they're unbeatable. I say
right now, right?
Yeah,
like,
I say that too. Yeah.
I will say this though, Ohio State in spots this year. Like if you make them a little bit one dimensional, like Michigan did, and it's easier said than done. I think you could beat them. Their losses are to Michigan and Oregon earlier in the season. They have a freshman wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. Like this kid he's unbelievable. Like he would unguardable. He'd be the first wide receiver picked in the draft this year as a freshman. He's like 6'3", 220. He wears extra large gloves. Like he's something that you build in a lab for a wide receiver. And he's playing Will Howard. Will Howard's a good quarterback, but it's not like he's playing with Trevor Lawrence.
They're on all cylinders, like you said right now.
There's just too many pros on that team. The only way that you're going to beat Ohio State is if you completely shut down their run game. Because if their run game's clicking and they have options to go deep with Smith, you're in trouble.
And the last two questions: your favorite late night snack? What is your favorite? What is your go-to?
Ice cream. I eat ice cream.
What kind? Ben and Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs?
No, so I eat ice cream 365 days a year.
Yeah,
I love it. Like I'm not going to stop either.
What is your go-to? I know you like what's your go-to? Gooba, what do you like?
Well, I'm a mint chocolate chip guy, but we mix it up. Like my wife, the beauty of ice cream is
365. I love it.
Yeah, I don't have an affiliation with one brand like Haagen-Dazs.
I got you.
I love the seasonal stuff. Like she'll bring in like the apple crisp ice cream sometimes. Peppermint during the holidays. Like you just mix it up. Like I absolutely love ice cream. And I'm like an ice cream connoisseur too, and I love mom and pop ice cream spots. So like if I'm traveling,
you always go. If it's a line, you'll find a line.
If I see a white hut in a town that's not a franchise, like I'm going there.
He's going there. And the other thing I wanted to say to you, one of my goals with Vinny and Steven, how they brought me along in the last 3 years as I came back to the sport, and I never get really the chance to thank these guys. They're the goats to me, man. They're great to me. They let me do whatever I do. I'm off course 90% of the time.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of all this. Don't change that.
They still accept me, and I love them for that.
Maybe draw the shade down, but that's all.
You're correct. You're correct. But I always wanted for my dear heart to start a charity, and one of it has to do. I know some people might laugh at this, but it has something to do with mental illness in the sport. I don't want to name any names, but there are some kids that play very, very high-profile people that play in the game today that have a form of mental illness. And it's not really out there, and I'm not going to share anybody's name or anything, but it's one of the things dear to my heart, and I just thought maybe I'm going to write a check to the foundation, and I'm going to go over with Vinny and them just to start a charity through Vinny and me. And I wanted to know if you and your son Grayson might want to be a part of it going forward or something.
Yeah, it's hit near and dear to me, Smalls, because
and I'm open for suggestions.
My very best friend, Rob Cabot, who introduced the game to me, we met when we were in nursery school, and we went through every step of the way through, grade school, middle school, high school, graduated from Yorktown together. We won 3 state championships in a row at Yorktown. We always beat Long Island too. Beat Long Island. Title. And then we went off to Syracuse, and we won a national title together. We were captains our senior year. We only had 2 captains that year. It was Rob and myself.
Wow.
My very, very best friend for life. And I knew everything about this kid from A to Z, or at least I thought I did. And then 2021, I got a call from his sister that he died.
Oh.
And automatically I thought, like, did he get into a car accident? Did he have a heart attack? And, a day later I found out that he took his own life. And the idea behind, struggling with the mental aspect of life and the struggles that people have, it's a quiet it's a quiet concern for people, because people feel like they can't tell people their problems, or they feel inferior if they say I'm struggling. The point is, no one, or at least no one, thought they knew Rob better than I did, and I didn't know for 1 second that he was struggling until the day he took his life. So it tells you all you need to know. I spent more time, hours, with Rob than I did even my brothers, because you got to factor in, we played every sport together. We went through every school grade together. We went to college together. We were roommates together. Like, I spent more time with him than my brothers, and I never knew that he was struggling, mentally, and had so many aspects of his life that he wasn't happy with. So to tell you that Rob's experience didn't have a profound impact on me is obviously, something that I hold near and dear to my heart. So yeah, I get his brother. Yeah, his brother started the 15 for Life Foundation. 15 was Rob's number, where they've done a great job just normalizing people that have struggles, and people who are fighting things in their life. And that's one of the reasons, like, when Rob died too, I decided for myself, like, I was going to be more transparent about the way I live my life. Not every day is great. I try to make the most out of it, but I struggle. I struggle with things in my own home, with my son, who every day is a struggle for him. Like, he doesn't have the interactions with friends that we all did growing up. He doesn't see the world through the same lenses that we do. And there's a lot of frustration on his behalf. And there's days where he's angry. There's days that he's really happy. So there's that that roller coaster of emotions. So I want people to understand that no one has it easy. And the only way that you're going to feel better about it is if you talk about it, and you let people know how you are feeling, because then if someone knows that you're struggling with certain things in life, your good friends will always check in on you. They'll always see how they can make you feel better. So that 15 for Life Foundation has done great things with individuals, with teams, with organizations to help normalize it, and for people to understand, like, you're not inferior if you're struggling. You're actually more of a powerful person if you could look someone in the eyes and say, like, I'm really having a hard time. I say that all the time about Rob, but I didn't even know. I thought he was fine. Like, when his sister called me, I thought he got into a car accident, or like, he had a heart attack, or something tragically happened with his health. But we also live in a day and age, Vinny, and Smalls and Steven, where, like, everyone thinks they need to be perfect because they see it on social media, and, like, no one posts, I'm having a shitty day, or, I'm not good at this or that. Everyone wants to be perfect. And I feel really bad for kids these days, because they're looking at, like, a false sense of reality, right? They follow all their friends on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and no one shows their warts, right? Everyone shows their best. And that's a lot to live up to with kids these days. Like it is. It's a tremendous amount of pressure.
Hey, Carc, I can relate to that because I have family, uncles, all went to West Point. My dad, I got a brother who's got his doctor. These guys were on the spectrum of the highest level that you could imagine. And Vinny knows, I speak to Vinny all the time. Like, and then it was me, because we always laugh. Vinny laughs too. It's funny. I never passed the test in high school or college. To get to college was like a dream. I was able to get to college. Dad says, I got a plan for you. You're going to go to Nassau Community. When I was out of school for 2 years. I was just working. I was a great kid. I had my mindset. I couldn't pass. And it was frustrating. Back then, people laughed at you. I had some issues and stuff. I had to find myself. And then that 1 year was the greatest gift of my life. I went to Nassau, and on the board, Vinny knows this, it was Coach Speckman put, if you win the mile, you make the team. So I trained for the mile, and I ran a mile. There's a question. I won the mile, but there's a question now what it was. Vinny says 5:20. I say 5:05. It was a 5:05.
5:05 is flying. That's flying in a mile.
And I was able to make it, win a national championship. I could only play 1 year. I just had no accolades. I couldn't pass. Back then, the tutors and everything, it is what it is. So I was fortunate and very grateful to play 1 year. But I know what it's like to struggle at a certain level, like that. And then I became a success story in business and stuff, which is great, whatever. But I always look for things. And that's what I saw in you the day you had your kid there. I couldn't articulate it to Vinny. I knew in my head what it was. But
look, man, when they cart you off one day, you mentioned some of the accolades that your family members had, and that's wonderful. And if they're great people on top of it, that makes it even better.
Yeah, no, they were good.
When they cart you off one day, no one's gonna sit here and start reading off your accolades. The only thing, my grandma told me this one time, when your day is done, people are gonna remember you how you made them feel. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Yeah. No one's going to give a crap about what kind of car you had or how big your house was or, how many awards you won. They're going to remember you for how you made them feel. Absolutely. How many kids are playing club lacrosse right now because all the other kids are doing it and their parents want them? Now, I have a different opinion. Like, I think club lacrosse is outstanding because there's a lot of great coaches out there. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, kids are playing too much. Look, like anything, there's bad club lacrosse, but there's great club lacrosse too. Like you get in the right organization with the right coaches, like those guys and girls in the men's and women's space, they could change your life and they could change your trajectory, but you have to want it. Like if you don't want it and it's being pushed by someone else, it doesn't have a happy ending. Look, because you got to look at everything lacrosse wise as the journey and not the destination, right? Like I explained to my daughter, she's in 9th grade right now, and she loves the game, and she's a really talented kid. She practices almost every day. Like she's out in the backyard, like she loves the game, and she's creative and she plugs away at it. But I tell her all the time, like as much as I like going to watch you play in the game in the summer, the journey that we have together, the time that we're in the backyard and we're playing and we're talking about your day while we're having a catch, those are more meaningful to me than going to the tournament in New Jersey. Like you gotta appreciate the journey. So the journey for everyone is different. Like the journey for me is finding those moments where, we have a stick in our hand most days together. I love that. And I cherish that. If you're a parent who doesn't have the lacrosse background maybe that we have that isn't in the backyard, like capture the journey aspect of it where your son or your daughter is meeting new friends and they're having great times in the hotels. It's not about just the games. It's not like you gotta find the gold in the journey, not the destination. Like that's not the point. I told my daughter too, like if you love the game, one day when you go off, to a spot where you're going to make a commitment to a college, that's not the end game for you. Like that's going to happen. It's in some level, way, shape, or form. Like if you love the game, that's just part of the journey. The destination is not to get to me. It's not the bumper sticker on the back. Like, 'cause then you're going to lose sight of everything. Yeah, and part of the reason why I love the game so much is we found it on our own. Not my parents didn't find the game for us. We found it on our own. So I always try to, self-regulate and assess how I am, like with my daughter, because lacrosse is my passion and it's her passion, but I have to make sure that she's still driving that bus. Do you know what I mean? And like you have to self-regulate.
I want to introduce Steven for the last final thing, but before that, I want to give Steven a compliment. A lot of times people don't know he in the club session. They didn't have all that years ago. He was player of the year in club ball. And for what I understand from a lot of people now, to be in the club circuit when Vinny was there was the highest time. So he was player of the year over everybody. So to me, that's the best player in the land. I don't know.
No, it was, but back then.
Am I right? I don't know. You guys know, Vinny.
Absolutely. The best players in the world before the MLL were playing on Long Island Hofstra. We're playing on Team Toyota. That's
right. That's what I heard. Toyota. So that was it. So
nowhere to hide.
I want to throw a shout out to my good friend. And go ahead, Steven. Finish up.
Well, I was just going to say we're at our stage of our shout outs. Usually we wrap it up with some shout outs to people. I could go first if
yeah, do whatever you got.
So we had mentioned them earlier.
We're done.
Earlier. Yeah. I'd give my shout out to a great lifetime of lacrosse to Dave Urick, who recently passed away. Obviously, our hearts go to his family, his kids. What a legacy. A guy who imprinted an amazing legacy at Hobart, putting all of those champions. I mean, you're talking wooden-like numbers, This is insane. You almost can't even comprehend the streaks that they had going and how he had put that together. And I can remember as being a high school student at the time, and I was at St. Mary's, and we would go over and they'd have that Day of Champions at Manhasset, and it always seemed to be because it was D1 champ versus the D3 champ, and obviously Hobart was there every year, so we got a chance to see them play up close and personal a lot, and just a tremendous legacy. Obviously, the things he did with the U.S. teams as well, but that's another. Another great one has left us, but he's left behind a tremendous legacy. So that would be my shout out to Dave Urick and his family.
I'm lost for words. I just very quickly, I was thinking, I got a text while I was here from somebody else, and God bless all the people in California that are losing their houses. We just recently had a friend, Vinny was on the chain just a couple hours ago. He watched his house burn to the floor because he has one of those, what do they call, Palm Pilots, Vinny? He can watch your house, whatever. So he watches his own house burning on a video that's on his house. So he lost that, and we had some other friends. So it's just a horrible situation, and God bless them. That's all I can say. But anyway, my shout out is to Ernie Olson, who coached me I was able to get on the team, and God bless him and stuff. He was just a great person, and he was the toughest guy I ever saw. He challenged everybody on his knees. I don't want to name the guy who he knocked out because the guy he knocked out is a very prominent guy and probably one of the toughest guys I know, and he knocked him out on his knees. So I give it up to Ernie. He was a great man and a wonderful person. And that's it. That's it for me, Vinny. Yeah, he believed in people. He didn't have much. He worked hard as he can every time to get a coaching job. And through coaching and some of the little money that he did make back in the day, he gave it to kids and stuff. So I also want to shout out a guy named Dougie Hall, who was very, very close to him, and he was also my coach and stuff. And they were very, very tight friends. I know Dougie, his heart is really hurting over that and stuff. So, yeah, it goes a long way. Yeah, that's it. Carc, who do you got to shout out? I mean, to everybody, to your whole world, Carc. I mean, Mr. Energy. I got to give you the title, Mr. Energy.
Well, I would say as we approach another season, I'm gonna shout out all those parent and town volunteers that are behind the scenes, the moms making the cookies, the dads lining the fields, the volunteer coaches in every town that's playing the sport of lacrosse that are doing it just to give a kid an opportunity. Thank you. You're not unnoticed. And, the game isn't what it is without those volunteers.
Well, I wanna thank Carc for joining us today. I just want to say, don't ever underestimate what your impact and your colleagues that are doing the games, what imprint and impact that they actually have on that game. Because, for years when I was a young guy, you wanted to learn lacrosse, you need to watch, you need to visualize it.
Yeah.
I'd have to go watch Vinny, maybe at Caniac Park in Hicksville when he's playing games, or at Freeport Summer Leagues, or chasing around to watch high level players play. But watching levels the players play is not somebody in your ear actually telling you every minute and orchestrating it on the teleprompters what exactly is going on. You had to figure it out on your own. The kids today, I advise them, I say, go watch these games. Now there's thousands of games streaming, and you have Carc, and you have Quinn, and you have Boyle. You have all of these guys that are high IQ. They understand the game. They're teaching you the game. It's like having a master class. And your imprint of what you do with that for a generation of players, the game is being played at a higher level, and you guys are a significant part of that as well, just by doing what you do. And I want to thank you for that.
Are you going to be at the Final Four this year, Carc?
Yeah, I'll be there.
You know what's implemented? I'm sure you know everything, but let me just say for the fans, the girls' game is going to be part of that this year. You're aware, right?
Yes, and it should be every year because there's so much crossover between the men's and the women's games with families and fans. It should be like that every year.
I go up a
It's
week.
a no-brainer.
I go up a whole week every year. That's been my tradition for the last 4 years. These guys come. I love it. Come
going say hi.
Oh, it's great. All right.
What's great about this, Carc loves lacrosse more than us, even probably. I can't even say I could love it as much as he does. We could go another 5 hours with,
Have me on in the middle of the season.
And bring Grayson up with you. I want to take care of Grayson. He can be in my suite. We'll have more fun than ever before, man. Right, Vinny? How do we do it? Oh, every year we love it.
We're definitely bringing Carc back because we do have to check in mid-season.
Yes, 100%.
And we appreciate, and during that time we'll stay in touch, because any tips that you could help us and give us to
look, I love the conversation piece of it, and you got to stay true to who you guys are. I wouldn't change it too much, right? Like treat it like you're making meatballs. It's got to be a feel.
Wow.
It really is.
You stayed to be a regular guy, Carc. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
And send Vinny your where you live, or where you can get a package or something after we get off.
So
thank you so much, guys.
We want to send something to you and Grayson. Thank you.
Anytime. Be good.
Music.
Thank you.